Good evening and welcome to Sunset News this Thursday evening. As always, we bring you news, community stories, economics, weather and sports. I am Diana Master. In the news tonight, Works and Transport Minister Veiko Nekundi earlier today announced a 15% increase in taxi and bus fares nationwide effective 18 May, following a request by the Namibia Public Passenger Transport Association and recommendations by the Road Transportation Board of Namibia. Nekundi said the adjustment was approved after considering prevailing economic conditions, the need to support transport operators, and the importance of balancing the interests of commuters, passengers, and service providers. As part of the adjustment, taxi fares will increase from 13 Namibian dollars to 15 Namibian dollars. This follows an announcement that fuel prices will increase effective 8 May 2026. In Walvis Bay, petrol 95 will cost 23 Namibian dollars and 48 cents per litre, a 1 Namibian dollar 42 cents increase. Diesel will cost 50 ppm 28 Namibian dollars and 26 cents, a 4 Namibian dollars and 63 cents increase, and diesel 10 ppm will cost 28 Namibian dollars and 36 cents, a 4 Namibian dollars and 63 cent increase. Fuel prices in other parts of the country will be adjusted accordingly based on the transport differentiation, according to Mines Minister Modesta Samutse, who also stated that the government would continue with the temporary reduction and suspension of selected levies, in addition to a fuel road subsidy of 13 million Namibian dollars for transport per month, to subsidize the transportation of fuel to rural areas and far-flung destinations. Namibia continued to receive scheduled fuel supplies and would continuously monitor fuel stock levels, Amutse said, adding that the country had sufficient fuel supply for the next 3 months, with no risk to security of supply at the moment. Service stations have further been directed to refuel only into vehicles and machinery. The filling of drums and cans will not be permitted except for those in possession of consumer installation certificates for a period of 3 months in an effort to discourage stockpiling. Namibia's new financial sector law is set to fundamentally reshape how pension funds operate, raising fresh concerns about its complexity and the real impact on pensioners. The Financial Institutions and Markets Act 2021 introduces tighter oversight over how retirement savings are invested, managed, and ultimately paid out. FEMA marks a decisive shift from the long-standing framework under the Pension Funds Act of 1956, moving from the system away from the trustee-driven decision-making toward a more centralized, regulator-led model under the Namibia Financial Institutions Supervisory Authority. Now, under the previous system, pension payouts were largely determined by fund rules, trustees, and actuaries, with NAFISA playing a supervisory role focused on compliance. Funds themselves decided how benefits were structured, how returns were distributed, and which annuity options were offered. Pensioners typically relied on insurers and market conditions to determine their retirement income, with annuities priced and structured by financial institutions rather than dictated by the regulator. FEMA gives NAFISA the authority to determine whether pension funds are in a sound financial position and to intervene when it is not satisfied with the valuations of assets and liabilities. This effectively allows the regulator to challenge how funds calculate their financial position and require corrective action before risks materialize. One of the most far-reaching changes lies in how retirement benefits are structured and distributed. The Act empowers NAFISA to regulate annuities purchased by pension funds, the determination of dividends and bonuses, and minimum benefits payable to members. This means the regulator can influence how pension savings are converted into monthly income, thereby shaping retirees' financial outcomes. It also introduces compulsory beneficiary nomination requirements aimed at reducing disputes over pension payouts after a member's death. NAFISA can set limits on specific asset classes, regulate offshore investments, and require formal investment policy statements. Given that pension funds manage billions in long-term savings, these provisions position the regulator at the center of decisions that affect both retirement outcomes and broader economic activity. The law also allows oversight of complex financial instruments and off-balance sheet transactions, thereby tightening control over risk exposure. In our next story, witness and warning statements obtained from 3 of the 4 men accused in a rape and armed robbery case dating back to 2018 have been ruled inadmissible in the main trial after the Katutura Regional Court found that police obtained some of the statements under the guise of witness interviews despite already treating the men as suspects. Regional Court Magistrate Victor Nyazo made the ruling last month following a trial within a trial brought by the state in an attempt to have several statements admitted as evidence ahead of the main trial, which is set to commence later this month. Rion Ricky Gaingob, 39, Safrino Gaingob, 29, and their cousin Golden Gaingob, 29, and Moses Bekus, 32, face charges including housebreaking with intent to rob and robbery with aggravating circumstances, multiple counts of rape, escape, unlawful possession of a firearm and ammunition, and motor vehicle theft. The charges stem from allegations that the men broke into the home of a then 21-year-old Windhoek woman in December 2018, stole electronic items valued at approximately 28,100 Namibian dollars, and allegedly raped her at knife and gunpoint. State Prosecutor Ellen Shipena further alleges that Rion Bekus and Golden were involved in a separate robbery and motor vehicle theft incident in Katutura on the 30th of November 2018, during which electronic items valued at about 11,900 Namibian dollars and a Volkswagen Polo were stolen. During proceedings in November 2024, the state sought to have a confession and witness statement by Golden, a witness statement by Safrino, and a Pol 17 warning statement by Bekus admitted into evidence. Rion was cited in the application only for completeness and was not directly involved in the admissibility proceedings. The application was opposed by the accused's legal representatives. Safrino's defense argued that his statement was obtained while he was allegedly being treated as a witness and that he had not been informed of his constitutional rights, including the right against self-incrimination. Bekus argued that investigating officer Joseph Sakaria ignored his request to provide the statement in the presence of a lawyer and instead effectively ascribed the contents of the statement to him. Golden, meanwhile, challenged both his confession and witness statement, arguing that the confession made before Magistrate Alwendo Venasius was not freely and voluntarily made, and that his witness statement had been recorded in English without being interpreted back to him in his home language. Court documents further indicate that Golden approached police in August of 2020, expressing a desire to make what he believed would be an uninfluenced confession in an effort to distance himself from the rape allegations, reportedly maintaining that he had only been involved in the robbery. In his ruling, Nyazo found that Sakaria already regarded Safrino and Bekus as suspects when he conducted what he described as a filtering and credibility interviews. The 3 accused remain in custody with only Safrino out on bail of 4,000 Namibian dollars. Safrino and Rion are also known to have previous convictions and have on several occasions escaped from police custody back in 2019. Authorities have recovered 295 protected elephant's foot succulents valued at more than 2 million Namibian dollars after 2 suspects were arrested near Arandis. The case relates to alleged plant poaching near Arandis after intelligence was received on the 25th of April about the possible illegal harvesting of the plants near a mine. According to the incident report, a law enforcement team patrolling the road between Usakos and Arandis spotted a white pickup traveling at high speed in the Valencia area. 2 men who were allegedly found loading 50-kilogram bags containing Adenia pechueli, commonly known as elephant's foot. The suspects appeared in the Swakopmund Magistrates Court and remain in custody. The adult suspect was identified as 33-year-old Shipetekera Kudatu. The second suspect is 16 years old and may not be named. A well-placed source who spoke on condition of anonymity, as this may jeopardize future investigations, said the value of the seized plants is estimated at more than 2 million Namibian dollars. The source said elephant's foot is a succulent plant targeted mainly for ornamental purposes. It is mostly exported for ornamental purposes. At this stage, we have not yet found that it is being used for anything else, the source said. The individual said the plants are attractive to collectors because of their appearance and scarcity, adding that they were often sought after as water-wise ornamental plants or bonsai-type specimens. He warned that the removal of such plants from the wild causes lasting image. When you remove the plant from nature, it leaves a gap. These plants grow slowly and many of them will not survive once removed, he said. Namibian Sun understands that several similar incidents were reported earlier this year and that the plants are often moved out of Namibia through regional corridors before being exported to buyers on other continents. In 2024, researchers noted that the endemic species is highly sought after by international plant collectors because of its peculiar shape that comes from growing in rocky areas. Unfortunately, plants from the wild are preferred as plants grown in the nursery tend to have a uniform shape. They added that based on the rate of illegal harvesting, Adenia petrelli is threatened with extinction. That brings us to the end of our top stories. After the break, we bring you our Story of the Day segment.
Namibia is a land of movement, with waves that never stop reaching forward. Here, adventure is not something we search for. It is something we are born into. In every corner of this country, creativity rises, from artists, from athletes, from dreamers. And when the world comes to explore Namibia, they discover something extraordinary. Because when sport moves people, creativity moves ideas, and tourism moves the world toward us. Something powerful happens. A platform where movement meets imagination, where industries connect, where opportunity grows, where Namibia's next chapter begins. Welcome to the Creative Sport Tourism Expo. Exhibit, partner, experience. Creative Sport Tourism.
Life is unpredictable and one needs to be protected against any eventuality. Get Santam legal access from as little as 50 Namibian dollars a month for when you find yourself in need of legal representation due to civil cases, criminal prosecution, and family matters such as divorce, child maintenance, and custody. It also covers labor disputes, disciplinary hearings, and unfair dismissal or retrenchment. With Santam Legal Access, you'll receive free legal advice on almost every legal aspect, whether the specific matter is covered by your policy or not. For true peace of mind and legal protection when you need it most, call us on 061 292 8000. Santam. This is freedom.
And now getting into our story of the day. Deputy Executive Director in the Ministry of Agriculture, Kingsley Kwenani, has stated that improved seed is becoming one of Namibia's strongest tools in responding to climate change. He highlighted that drought, rising temperatures, and erratic rainfall are already affecting agricultural production, but stressed that drought-tolerant, early maturing, and pest-resistant seed varieties are helping farmers adapt and build resilience. The remarks were made on his behalf by Johanna Andoa at the National Farmers Information Day in Mashare constituency today. Let's take a look.
This demonstrates a shared commitment to transforming Namibia's agriculture and securing a resilient food future for our country. Today is more than a field day. It is a day of learning, innovation, and partnership. A day where science meets practice, where research meets farmer, and where solution for tomorrow begins in the field we stand in today. Ladies and gentlemen, agriculture in Namibia is increasingly operating under pressure. Rising temperatures, prolonged droughts, erratic rainfall patterns, emerging pests and declining soil fertilities are no longer future risks, but they are. Seed is the most indispensable input in crop production, and the
mbuto isosinike simwe sokuhova esi asigava nomkondo kunandima naunye tani.
After the break, we bring you the latest in economic news. Headlining our economic news, Namibia attracted 151 billion Namibian dollars in foreign direct investment between 2021 and 2024, more than 3 times the 50 billion Namibian dollars recorded over the preceding decade. But legal experts say the harder task is translating that capital into broad economic benefits. That was the central message from a webinar hosted by law firm Cliff Decker Hofmeyr, in which 4 directors from the firm's Namibian practice examined the forces driving the country's investment surge and the policy challenges that remain. Patrick Kauta, managing partner and director of dispute resolution, said much of the recent foreign direct investment had gone into exploration, which is itself capital intensive. The challenge now is to convert foreign direct investment into tangible improvements like job creation, he said. Ilda Lomba, Director of Corporate and Commercial, said Namibia's 6th National Development Plan positions oil and gas as strategic drivers of economic transformation rather than simply revenue-generating sectors. The mining sector, which contributes approximately 13% to gross domestic product, sits at the center of that ambition. Mahano Erkana, Director of Banking, Finance and Projects, said the government needed to optimize returns from mineral resources and channel them into other sectors to sustain development and improve living standards. The 6th National Development Plan sets a target of increasing processed mineral exports from 46.6% to 57% by 2030, alongside attracting 30 billion Namibian dollars in new mining investment. Erkana said projects in the pipeline were expected to drive capital expenditure of more than 2.8 billion Namibian dollars and create more than 500,000 jobs by 2030. Infrastructure development is a core plank of the strategy, with the government aiming to position Namibia as a logistics gateway connecting the Southern African development community with global markets. Planned developments include warehousing facilities, logistics parks, and expanded capacity along Namibia's 4 main transport corridors, which are Trans-Kalahari, Trans-Caprivi, Trans-Kunene, and Trans-Oranje. Lomba said energy infrastructure was a critical enabler that could not be separated from the oil and gas opportunity. And now let's take a look at the financial indicators. The Namibian dollar trades at 22.27 against the British pound, 19.26 against the euro, 16.39 against the US dollar, and 2 Namibian dollars and 41 cents buys you 1 Chinese yuan. All commodities are up, save for Brent crude oil, which took a dip of 4.49%, now trading at $101 and 19 cents per barrel. After the break, we bring you the latest in international news. Tonight in international news, Democratic Republic of Congo's President Felix Tshisekedi has said he may consider seeking a third term in office when his mandate expires in 2028. Tshisekedi, however, said any extension of his presidency would only be done by consulting the people through a referendum. The law allows a maximum of 2 terms. I have not asked for a third term, but I'm telling you, if the people want me to have a third term, I will accept, he was quoted as saying on Wednesday. He added that the elections may not be held on schedule because of the conflict in the east of the country. M23 rebels last year seized control of swathes of the North and South Kivu regions, including the key cities of Goma and Bukavu. Tshisekedi said voting could not be organized without the 2 regions, adding that the timing of the elections would depend on how quickly the conflict is resolved. If we cannot end this war, unfortunately, we will not be able to hold the elections in 2028, Tshisekedi said at a press conference, just his second in the capital Kinshasa since being re-elected to office in 2023. The event at the State House overlooking the River Congo lasted more than 3 hours and was attended by over 200 journalists and supporters. Congolese government forces have been battling the M23, widely believed to be backed by neighboring Rwanda, as well as other local armed groups in eastern DR Congo for several years. Rwanda denies supporting the M23 despite overwhelming evidence and says its military presence in the region is a defensive measure against threats posed by armed groups based in DR Congo. The U.S. sanctioned some Rwandan army commanders in March, accusing them of fueling the DR Congo conflict, with fighting persisting despite a U.S.-brokered peace deal. Tshisekedi on Wednesday insisted that his priority was to restore peace through diplomacy before leaving office, but blamed Rwanda for obstructing progress. He accused Rwanda of profiting from DR Congo's rich mineral resources and dragging its feet on implementing the agreement signed in Washington in December. In our next story, more changes at the top of South Sudan's government on Wednesday as President Salva Kiir fired the country's army chief and a finance minister who'd been in office for less than 3 months. Reuters news agency reported General Paul Nang had been head of military since October, but was under scrutiny over the nation's worsening security situation. According to local media, he's been replaced by General Santino Dengwall, a close ally of Kiir. Wall previously held the post from 2020 to 2024. The former finance minister Salvatore Garang only took office on the 23rd of February. At the end of April, Kiir sacked the foreign minister and the head of the country's Internal Security Bureau. Earlier in the month, he dismissed the Speaker and Deputy Speaker of Parliament. Analysts say the president's frequent reshuffles are part of an attempt to maintain a grip on power amid ongoing instability and speculation over his eventual successor. South Sudan has faced repeated delays in implementing a 2018 peace agreement that ended the country's 5-year civil war. Under the deal, Kiir has authority to appoint and dismiss top officials at both national and state levels. After years of delays, the country is expected to hold elections in December. If the process goes ahead, it would mark the first national polls since the country gained independence from Sudan 15 years ago. That brings us to the end of our international news segment. Now, just before we get into our sports news, let's take a look at the weather predictions. Windhoek can expect sunny conditions. Maximum temperatures will be at 24 degrees Celsius and minimum temperatures will be at 8 degrees Celsius. In Ruacana, it is maximum temperatures of 32 degrees to be expected and minimum temperatures of 15 degrees Celsius. Looking over at the coast, partly cloudy conditions in both Swakopmund and Walvis Bay. Maximum temperatures in Walvis Bay will be at 20 degrees Celsius and minimum temperatures will be at 14 degrees Celsius. In Oranjemund, it's bright, clear, sunny skies. Maximum temperatures will be at 18 degrees Celsius and minimum temperatures will be at 12 degrees Celsius. With that said, let's head on over to the sports desk, courtesy of SportWrap.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news and starting off with Formula One racing, and the next race on the racing calendar will only be on the 24th of May in Canada, and at the moment it's Kimi Antonelli of Mercedes He's leading, and it is a good accolade that he got from a former champion, 1996 champion Damon Hill of Britain. And he said that the 90-year-old is showing maturity beyond his years, and he's got the talent to win the championship. And Antonelli, just 19 years old, doing great, and he's leading at the moment on the points. He's got 100 points after 4 races. Incredibly, he's won 3 after 4 races so far. 20 points behind him, teammate George Russell in the Mercedes. He's got 80 points, and then following in third, Charles Leclerc on 59. That's in the Ferrari that he's racing, and then Lando Norris, McLaren on 51. Also Lewis Hamilton also in a Ferrari is on 51 points. And then in 7th position is a Red Bull, that is Max Verstappen, doing better the last race, but a long way behind the leader Kimi Antonelli at this stage. There will be lots of races in June. There will be 3 races in June, in fact. The 7th of June, it will be Monaco Grand Prix. Then the 14th, Catalunya, that is in Barcelona. And then the 28th of June, it's the Austrian Grand Prix. So lots of racing when it starts at the end of the month, coming back to back. Moving on to tennis news on international sports news, and it's related to prize money that is paid to the tennis players in majors. And it was incredibly Aryna Sabalenka, the world number 1, that said that it might happen that players might boycott some of the majors if the imbalance is not addressed. So imbalance at the moment is that the players ask for a higher percentage of the revenue that is generated from all the majors, from the 4 majors. And so Aryna Sabalenka said that it might be that players won't play in tournaments. And then Coco Gauff of the USA also indicated that if that is the case, she will not play in tournaments. She will stand with other players that don't want to play. But it was Iga Swiatek, she's also a top 5 player in the world, that said she's a bit nervous not to play in the majors, and I think there's a more dialogue needed. But at the moment, as it stands, the next major will be on the 24th of May that will start. That is the French Open in Paris, and that will go up till the 7th of June when the final will be played. So hopefully all the powers that be in all the majors can speak to the players, and they can find the way that everybody gets their fair share of all the revenue. So that is international sports news for today. We'll talk international sport again tomorrow. Goodbye.
And with that, we've come to the end of the broadcast. I am Diana Master, and this has been Sunset News. Don't end your day without us.